mother is a big one for explaining things, and one thing she explained is that a mortgage is how you pay for your house. You have to send a check for it every single month, she told me. But that is A-okay with my mother, because she is wild for our house. We moved to Washington, D.C. this summer from Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is where we used to live before my parents got separated. My true feelings about that are not fine. They are yuck. My mom says that is to be expected, but I am telling you one thing. I didn't expect it at all. In Ann Arbor, we lived in the suburbs, and our house had a big yard and a garage and a family room. My dad still lives in it. He says my room will always be my room, and I am glad about that because even though it still has the circus wallpaper from when I was a little kid, and even though some of it is a little peeling where I picked at it when I was supposed to be taking a nap, I feel fond of that room. Our Washington, D.C. house is a city house. It has a little white porch with a swing big enough for 2 people, and a pig-shaped weather vane on the roof, and no garage, because when you live in the city, you can walk to a lot of places and take the subway, which is called the metro. I am not one who likes waiting around for rides, but I do think it's odd not having a car, which we don't because my mom thinks they are expensive and not necessary. Plus, she says, if we need to drive someplace far away, we can always borrow my grandparents' station wagon. Our city backyard is puny, but it has a blackberry bush, and last month when it was August, we got enough of those berries to make one pie big enough for 2 people, and when it was cooked, my mom and I sat on the swing and ate it all up. At my new house, I got to pick the color for my room, and I picked red, which my mother and my grandmother said would drive me crazy, but doesn't. Plus, it's original, and according to my grandfather, I am an original thinker. When I talked to my dad on the phone yesterday, I told him what my grandfather said, and my father told me, "It's true, Lucy Rose. You have a one-of-a-kind mind." That is a good compliment, I think. It's because of my original thinking that I got this book that I am writing in right now. Yesterday afternoon, Pop came in from a walk and gave me a little bag from the Trover shop, and inside it was this book that is red on the cover and white on the inside, and on the edge is a loop that has a golden pen in it. I think most people who would get a book like this would be at least 20 years old, and probably in college. Pop told me that I should write in my red book whenever I think of something that is important or funny, which I do a lot of the time. My grandparents live 3 blocks away from me in a 3-story tall house that my grandfather has lived in since he was born, which was an extremely long time ago. It has 9 porches, some of them on the 2nd floor that you can only get on if you climb out of the window, which is something I get to do a lot because my grandmother is on a campaign against pigeons, and she sends me out to stomp around and scare them away. There are some things I like about this new neighborhood. One is that it doesn't feel brand new on account of I've been here plenty of times with my mom and dad to visit my grandparents. My dad says he will still come to Washington, but mostly it will be to visit me. Another good thing about this neighborhood is that it has sidewalks, and you can walk to the Capitol of the United States of America, which is the biggest, fanciest building ever. You can walk to the Supreme Court, which has an extremely lot of steps. And you can walk to Grubb's drugstore and buy Twizzlers and talk to Eddie the pharmacist, which I like to do because every time he sees me, he says, "What's shakin', Lucy Rose?" And I say, "I am." And then I shake all over like I'm going frantic. Then Eddie says, "You've got more wiggle than a bowl full of Jell-O, Lucy Rose," which makes me crack up. Eddie has been funny his whole life. I know this because my mom and her sisters, who have the names of Aunt Marguerite and Aunt Pansy, used to work at Grubb's when they were teenagers, and Grubb's had a soda fountain. It doesn't anymore because Eddie needed the space for the beauty aids counter. September 15. The thing about original thinkers is that they are not always so great in school, but in a lot of ways, I am. Considering I am in the 3rd grade, I am excellent at drawing, which is the same as my mother, and fine at language arts, and pretty good at making multiples with dried beans. I play the cello because I am extremely musical, which is like my dad, who was a French horn player when he was in his high school marching band, and it was the best band in the whole state of Michigan. I am not kidding. They won a trophy for it. And I am probably the best at morning greetings, which is a credit to my grandmother, because she is very big on greetings and has been rather firm that I should be too. A lot of kids don't know that you should look a grown-up right in the eyes when you meet them, and you should say something pleasant and call them by their name. Also, you should be thankful if they give you something, even if it is gross. I learned this when my great-aunt Ginny sent me a green sweater that itched and had 2 long sleeves for my birthday, and I did not feel thankful at all. But my grandmother said, "Lucy Rose, a person's taste can change overnight, and the next time you might get lucky." That has not happened to me so far, but I take her recommendations because she is from New Orleans, and that is one polite city. September 16. Here is one good thing. Today, I got a postcard from my dad, and on the front is a picture of a kid fishing, and it says, "I thought I'd drop you a line." On the back, it says, "Miss Lucy Rose Riley," which sounds older than 8, I think. Also, there is a note that says, "Dear Lucy Rose, I hope your new school is swell. Is it? I love you, Dad." My dad is a teacher of history at Ann Arbor Junior High School, so he is one who wants to know every last thing about my school. I made a postcard back. My grandmother gave it to me. It is not so interesting on the front because it just has a picture of the Lincoln Memorial, which you can see any time you want if you look at a penny. On the other side of the card, I wrote my old address and my dad's name, and I called him Mr. Bob Riley. Next to that I wrote, "Dear Dad, it's okay, I guess." That was not the whole exact truth. September 22. One hard part about being an original thinker is that sometimes it makes teachers glare at you, and Mrs. Washburn is a big one for glaring. Also, she likes people to stay seated just about all the time. When I explained about her at dinner last night, my grandfather said, "Mrs. Washburn doesn't have an original bone in her whole body." Then my mom said, "It's only September, and she might get better in a month or 2, which I doubt. Luckily, Mrs. Washburn is only a 2-morning-a-week teacher who comes to help with reading. My everyday teacher is Mr. Welsh, and he does not glare. Today he came up to me at lunch, and he said, "How are you settling in, Lucy Rose?" And I said, "Okie dokie." And he said, "That's great." And I said, "Well, a little okie dokie." "Only a little?" he asked me. I told him, "Actually, it is not the easiest to be the new kid in the neighborhood and the new kid at school at the exact same time, especially when you don't know any friends yet." He had sympathy for that because he told me, "I had a hard time when I was a new teacher, and I didn't know any of the other teachers or any of the kids, and to tell you the truth, the principal made me a little nervous. But after a while, it got better." "Are you still nervous of the principal?" "Nope," he said, "but it took a little time for me to get the hang of everything. I think that will be true for you, too." "Doubt it," I said. "Lucy Rose," Mr. Welsh said, "I'll eat my hat if things don't get better for you next month." I have never seen him wear a hat, so he might be kidding, but I hope he is not, because it is almost October, and that is the next month, and I would really like it to be better. Here are some things about Mr. Welsh. He has a nice look of not too much hair and little round eyeglasses, and he is skinnier than my dad and my grandfather, probably because he is one for good eating habits. Plus, he has 2 daughters who are in junior high, and a son who is still a kid, and a wife who works at the organic store. Mr. Welsh is a big one for jokes. Also, palindromes, which are words that are spelled the same forwards and backwards. I know about them from my father, and so far I have 6. One of them is Dad.